I always thought my wife, Jessica, was a good liar. Turns out, she was just dealing with a fool who never questioned her enough. That fool was me. The night I found out, I wasn't even looking for trouble. It was just another Thursday evening, and I was sitting in my car outside our house, finishing a work call. The windows were down, a warm breeze rolling in, and for some reason, I hesitated before stepping inside. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was fate deciding it was time I opened my damn eyes. Then I heard it. A laugh. Her laugh. But not the one she gave me. This one was different, lighter, flirtier. The kind of laugh that was meant to make a man feel like the king of the world. And then, a man's voice followed, deep and smug. I turned my head slowly toward our living room window, where the curtains were slightly open. There she was, Jessica, sitting on the couch, a wine glass in her hand, legs tucked under her like she didn't have a care in the world. And beside her, way too close, was my business partner, Ryan. His arm lazily draped over the back of the couch, his fingers barely an inch from her shoulder. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe he had just dropped by. Maybe I was imagining things. But then, Jessica leaned in, playfully touching his chest, and the way she looked at him, I knew. It wasn't just a one-time mistake. This was something deep, something ongoing. I clenched the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My mind raced through every late night, every girl's trip, every excuse she had thrown my way over the past few months. And like pieces of a shattered mirror falling into place, the truth became painfully clear. She was screwing my best friend, my business partner, and she didn't even have the decency to do it behind closed doors. No, she was in my house, drinking my wine, probably laughing at me in between stolen kisses. I could have barged in right then. I could have smashed Ryan's face into my hardwood floor, dragged him outside, and made sure he never walked straight again. But no, I wasn't going to let anger screw this up. No yelling, no rage. I was going to make them both pay. And when I was done, neither of them would see it coming. I sat there for a while, gripping the steering wheel so tight I thought I might snap it in half. My heart was pounding, but not with heartbreak. No, that part of me shut off the second I saw her lean into him. This was rage. Cold, controlled rage. The kind that doesn't explode but simmers, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. I took a deep breath and forced myself to relax. Not yet. Not tonight. Walking in there now, fists swinging, would only give them the satisfaction of thinking they had power over me. No, I had to be smart about this. I had to destroy them both, and I had to do it right. So, I did what any man in my position should do. I gathered evidence. Slowly, I pulled out my phone and zoomed in, snapping a few clear pictures of them, looking way too cozy for just friends. Ryan's hand on her thigh. The way she smiled at him like he was the only man in the world. My business partner and my wife, acting like I didn't even exist. I wasn't about to storm in there and give them a free show of my anger. No, I was going to make sure that when I finally made my move, there would be nothing left of the life they built behind my back. I drove away without them even realizing I had been watching. My hands were steady on the wheel, my mind already working through the steps. I needed more proof. Something undeniable. If I wanted to ruin Ryan, I had to hit him where it hurt the most. His career, his finances, his reputation. And Jessica? Well, she had no idea who she was playing with. The next day, I acted normal. I kissed Jessica goodbye like I always did before heading to work. She smiled at me, sweet as ever. Like she wasn't just letting another man put his hands all over her last night. I almost laughed at how pathetic she was, how easily she lied. But I played along. At the office, I started digging into Ryan's work files. He was careless, too comfortable. A man who thought he was untouchable. I found what I was looking for, discrepancies in company funds, questionable transactions. I copied everything. Every transfer, every shady deal he made without my knowledge. Then I hired a private investigator. If Jessica and Ryan thought they were being discreet, they were dead wrong. I wanted photos, videos, timestamps, everything. The moment I had enough to bury them both, I would make my move. 2 weeks passed. I played the perfect husband, the clueless business partner, never letting either of them suspect a thing. Jessica was getting cockier, staying out late, making up stupid excuses. Ryan, too, started looking more comfortable around me, as if he wasn't sneaking around behind my back with my wife. Then, one evening, she slipped. I was supposed to be out of town for a business meeting. She didn't know I canceled it. I parked a few blocks away and walked toward our house, keeping to the shadows. When I reached the front door, I didn't even need to knock. It was slightly open, carelessly left ajar. I stepped inside quietly, my fists clenching at the sounds coming from upstairs. Jessica's voice, breathless and giggling, followed by Ryan's deep chuckle. That was it. The final proof I needed. I pulled out my phone and hit record. The audio was more than enough. I could have left then, but no, I wanted her to see my face. I wanted to watch the blood drain from her cheeks when she realized her little game was over. I walked up the stairs slowly, deliberately, letting my footsteps echo. The moment I reached the bedroom door, I pushed it open with a smirk. Jessica screamed, scrambling for the sheets, while Ryan turned pale as a ghost. "Don't stop on my account," I said casually, leaning against the doorframe. "Looks like you two were having a great time." Jessica's eyes were wide, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Then, like the manipulative snake she was, she tried to switch gears. "It's not what it looks like, babe. He was just..." I held up my phone, still recording. "Yeah? You want to hear what it sounds like?" Ryan jumped out of bed, pulling his pants on. "Look, man. This is just a misunderstanding." I laughed, a real, genuine laugh. "Oh, it's not a misunderstanding, Ryan. It's just proof of how stupid you both are." Jessica's face twisted, her fake remorse disappearing in an instant. "So what? You want to act like a victim now? Maybe if you weren't such a boring, predictable husband, I wouldn't have needed someone else." And there it was, the real Jessica. I smiled. "Oh, I'm not a victim. Not even close." Ryan stepped forward. "Listen, let's talk about this like adults. No need to do anything drastic." I shook my head. "Oh, I already did." I pulled out a folder from my jacket and tossed it onto the bed. Jessica grabbed it, her face contorting as she flipped through the documents. Bank statements, emails, a signed agreement. She looked up at me, confused. "What the hell is this?" "That," I said, enjoying every second of her growing panic, "is the paperwork that makes me the sole owner of Ryan's company." Ryan's face turned red. "What? That's impossible." "Not really," I said. "See, while you were busy screwing my wife, I was busy making sure you'd never step foot in our company again. You left a lot of loose ends, buddy. And now I own everything. Your shares, your office, your entire damn career." Jessica let out a strangled laugh. "You're bluffing." I leaned in, my voice dropping to a whisper. "And the best part? Your dear Ryan here is officially bankrupt." Ryan lunged at me, but I was ready. One punch to the face sent him crashing back onto the bed. Jessica shrieked, scrambling away. "You think I didn't see this coming?" I said, rolling my shoulders. "You two thought you were playing me, but I was playing you." Jessica glared at me, still clutching the sheets. "You can't just ruin our lives like this." I grinned. "Oh, sweetheart, I didn't ruin anything. You did that all by yourself." I turned to leave, but before stepping out, I gave them one last parting gift. "By the way," I said over my shoulder, "Ryan's wife? She's divorcing him. And guess who she's getting half of his remaining assets?" Jessica's mouth dropped open. I winked. "Me." Then, I walked out, listening to the sound of their world shattering behind me. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could hear Jessica screaming at Ryan, her voice laced with rage and desperation, accusing him of being careless, of letting this happen. As if she wasn't just as guilty. As if she hadn't been the one spreading her lies and her legs while assuming I would stay blind forever. The night air was cool as I stepped outside, and for the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. Not happiness, not yet, but the weight pressing down on my chest had lifted, and I could breathe again. I got into my car, started the engine, and let the satisfaction sink in. Everything had fallen into place exactly how I wanted. Ryan was finished. He'd have to answer for his financial crimes, his company gone, his assets frozen. His wife, Emily, had been more than happy to work with me once I presented the evidence of his betrayal. I made sure she got what she deserved, half of everything left, including the house. The cherry on top. She hated Jessica just as much as I did. As for Jessica, she wouldn't be able to talk her way out of this one. She had spent years perfecting the art of manipulation, but this time, there was no comeback, no clever excuse that could undo what I had done. She would soon find out that our joint accounts were drained, that her credit cards were frozen, and that the luxury she had wrapped herself in had been stripped away. I drove to a hotel downtown, checked in, and took a long hot shower, washing away the last remnants of the life I had just left behind. When I stepped out, my phone was vibrating on the nightstand. Jessica. I smirked and let it ring. Then a text popped up. We need to talk. I ignored it. Another one came through. You don't get to just walk away from this, Andrew. That made me laugh. The audacity. After everything she had done, she still believed she had control over me. She really was delusional. The next morning, I woke up to more messages. The first few were predictable. Attempts to gaslight, blame, pretend she was the real victim. I never meant to hurt you. It was just a mistake. We can fix this. Then, when she realized I wasn't responding, the tone shifted. You think you're so smart? You think you've won? I put my phone down and ordered breakfast. Let her stew in it. By noon, I was ready for the next step. I met my lawyer, finalized the divorce paperwork, and ensured Jessica would walk away with nothing but regret. I had already moved our assets into protected accounts, sold the house, and handled every possible loose end before she even knew what was happening. By the time she received the official notice, I would be long gone from her life. Later that evening, as I sat in my hotel room with a whiskey in hand, my phone rang again. This time it was an unknown number. I answered out of curiosity. You smug son of a bitch. Ryan's voice spat through the receiver. I took a slow sip of my drink, savoring the moment. Ah, Ryan, how's unemployment treating you? You think this is over? You think you can just ruin my life and walk away? Ryan, I sighed, leaning back against the pillows. I didn't ruin your life. You did that all by yourself. I just made sure you paid the price for it. You're a vindictive bastard. You're a cheating, backstabbing fraud. I shot back. So if you're done whining, I have better things to do. You have no idea what you've started, he growled. I chuckled. Oh, but I do. And I finished it, too. Have a good life, Ryan. Or what's left of it. I hung up, blocked his number, and exhaled slowly. That was the last time I'd ever hear from him. Jessica, however, wasn't done yet. The next morning, she showed up at my office unannounced, marching past my assistant like she still had a claim to my time. She looked a mess. Hair disheveled, makeup smudged, wearing the same clothes from the night before. We need to talk, she said, her voice sharp with forced confidence. I leaned back in my chair and crossed my arms. We really don't. She slammed her hands on my desk. You don't get to do this to me, Andrew. I raised an eyebrow. Do what exactly? Treat you the way you treated me? Her nostrils flared. You're being petty. What happened between me and Ryan, it wasn't serious. It didn't mean anything. I laughed. Oh, is that supposed to make me feel better? That you threw away our marriage for something that didn't even mean anything? Brilliant, Jessica. Really top-tier reasoning. She clenched her jaw. I made a mistake. You made a choice, I corrected, over and over again. And now you get to live with it. Her eyes flickered with something. Panic, realization, maybe both. You can't just walk away from this. I smiled. I already have. She scoffed. What, you think you're gonna find someone better than me? You think some other woman is gonna want a bitter, pathetic man who got cheated on? I didn't even blink. Emily seems to think I'm a good option. Jessica's face twisted in pure rage. You're disgusting. I shrugged. You're irrelevant. Her mouth opened, then closed. She had nothing left. No cards to play, no lies to spin. She was just standing there, stripped of all the power she thought she had. And that was the moment she finally understood. She had lost. Without another word, she turned on her heel and stormed out. I watched her go, feeling nothing but satisfaction. This wasn't the end of my story. It was just the beginning of a better one. One where I was finally free. That night I slept better than I had in years. No tossing and turning. No lying awake wondering if Jessica was really working late or if the pit in my stomach was paranoia. Now I knew the truth, and there was nothing left to question. In the morning, I took my time getting ready. No rushed coffee, no forced smiles over breakfast with a woman who didn't respect me. Just silence, peace, and the freedom of knowing I owed her nothing. As I drove to the office, my phone buzzed with another message from Jessica. I debated deleting it without reading, but curiosity got the better of me. I hope you know you didn't break me. You think you're so smart, but I'll be fine. I'll find someone better than you. I smirked. Classic Jessica. Even when she lost, she had to act like she was still in control. I didn't bother replying. She was already scrambling, trying to convince herself that she hadn't destroyed her own life. At the office, my assistant greeted me with a raised eyebrow. Your ex-wife showed up again this morning. I told her you weren't available. Good, I said, shaking my head. Let security know she's not allowed in the building anymore. She nodded. Already done. I walked into my office, sat down, and let out a long breath. It was over. Except it wasn't, because 2 hours later, Ryan stormed into my office like a man with nothing left to lose. Which, to be fair, he didn't. You smug piece of trash, he spat, slamming his hands down on my desk. You think this is funny? You think ruining my life makes you a winner? I leaned back in my chair, utterly unimpressed. I think cheating with another man's wife is a bold move for someone with as much to lose as you had. You stole everything from me, he growled. My company, my reputation, my money. I held up a hand. Correction. I just let the consequences of your own actions catch up to you. Ryan's face turned red with rage. You're gonna regret this. That sounds like a threat, I said calmly. And in case you forgot, I still own the security footage from the office, including the part where you tried to tamper with financial records. I'm sure the authorities would love to take a closer look at that. His jaw tightened. He knew he was backed into a corner. Get out of my office, Ryan, I said, my voice cold. You're done here. For a second, I thought he might take a swing at me, but he didn't. He just glared, his hands clenching into fists at his sides. Then, finally, he turned and stalked out. I watched him go, then exhaled slowly. One more loose end tied up. By the time I got home that night, I felt lighter. The last of the storm had passed, and now all that was left was moving forward. But Jessica had one final trick up her sleeve. When I pulled into my driveway, she was waiting for me. Sitting on the hood of her car, arms crossed, looking every bit the desperate woman trying to act like she still had control. I sighed and stepped out. Jessica, you should leave. She hopped off the car, walking toward me with a smirk. Or what? You gonna call the cops on me? If I have to. She tilted her head. You used to love me, Andrew. Remember that. I clenched my jaw. That was before I found out who you really were. She sighed, shaking her head. I never wanted it to end like this. But if you weren't so stubborn, we could have worked through this. I actually laughed. You're unbelievable. You don't cheat on someone and then work through it. You didn't make a mistake, Jessica. You made a choice. And now you have to live with it. Her expression hardened. And you really think you're better off without me? I stared at her for a long moment, then smiled. I know I am. That hit her harder than anything else I could have said. Her face twisted, and for a second, I saw something behind her eyes. Something that almost looked like regret. But it wasn't real. Not with Jessica. She didn't regret hurting me. She regretted losing her safety net. She huffed, rolling her eyes. Whatever. You'll regret this one day, Andrew. Mark my words. I stepped past her and unlocked my door. No, Jessica. The only thing I regret is wasting so many years on you. She didn't follow me inside. She stood there for a moment, like she wanted to say something else, but I didn't give her the chance. I shut the door, locked it, and walked away. And just like that, she was gone from my life for good. A week later, I signed the final divorce papers. Jessica was officially out of my life. Ryan was left with nothing. Emily, now my business partner, had moved on from her cheating husband, and together we rebuilt what he had nearly destroyed. And me? I was free. Finally, truly free. And for the first time in years, I was excited about what came next. 2 months passed, and with each day, the weight of Jessica's betrayal faded into something distant, something that no longer had the power to pull me under. The divorce was finalized. My business was stronger than ever, and I had cut every last tie to the wreckage she and Ryan had left behind. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she had tried to spin the story in her favor, claiming I was controlling, cold, that our marriage had been over long before she ever stepped out on me. But no one was buying it. The truth had already been laid bare, and she had no one left to manipulate. Ryan, on the other hand, was a ghost. After losing everything, he had gone radio silent, disappearing from every social circle he once thrived in. His company was officially mine now, absorbed into my own, and Emily had taken over his role seamlessly. She was sharp, ambitious, and, most importantly, she understood exactly what kind of man Ryan had been. We worked well together, and for the first time in a long time, I actually enjoyed running the company. One evening, Emily and I were wrapping up a late-night strategy meeting when she leaned back in her chair, stretching her arms above her head. "So, have you heard from her at all?" I didn't need clarification. "No, and I plan to keep it that way." Emily smirked. "Good. I'd hate to have to slap some sense into you if you even considered letting that snake back into your life." I chuckled, shaking my head. "Not a chance. I don't make the same mistake twice." She studied me for a moment, then tilted her head. "You're different now, you know. Lighter. Less, I don't know, trapped." I exhaled, running a hand through my hair. "Yeah, I guess I finally let go of the idea that I had to fix something that was beyond saving." She nodded. "Took you long enough." As I locked up the office that night, I felt something settle inside me. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. But, of course, the past never stays buried for long. A week later, I got an unexpected call from an old friend. Mark, one of the few people who had stood by me through everything. "Dude," he said the moment I answered, "you're not gonna believe this." I sighed, already knowing where this was going. "What did she do now?" "She's engaged," he said, barely able to contain his disbelief. "To some rich guy. Some finance bro with more money than sense." I blinked. "Are you serious?" "Oh, I'm dead serious." She moved fast. "And get this, she's telling everyone you were the problem. That you were emotionally neglectful. That you forced her into Ryan's arms." I laughed, genuinely amused. Of course she is. Jessica could cheat in broad daylight and still find a way to blame someone else. "That's not even the best part," Mark continued. "Her new guy? Apparently he has no idea about her past. She's pretending to be some poor, heartbroken woman who got trapped in a loveless marriage." "Wow." I shook my head. "She never changes." Mark snorted. "Nope. And the best part? She accidentally ran into Emily last week and tried to act all friendly, like nothing ever happened." I raised an eyebrow. "How did that go?" "Let's just say Emily didn't hold back. She straight up told her that if she ever tries to play victim again, she'll make sure her new fiancé finds out exactly who he's marrying." I grinned. "Remind me to buy Emily a drink." "You got it," Mark laughed. "Anyway, I just thought you'd get a kick out of it. Guess some people really don't learn." After I hung up, I stared at my phone for a moment, considering everything. Jessica was trying to reinvent herself, pretend she was the victim, erase the past like it never happened. But the thing about people like her, they can't keep up the act forever. Eventually, the mask slips. And when it did, I hoped her new fiancé was ready for the nightmare he had just signed up for. As for me, I had my own life to live. And for the first time in a long, long time, I was looking forward to it. A few more months passed, and life settled into something that finally felt like mine. No more unexpected betrayals. No more walking on eggshells around a woman who drained the life out of me. My business thrived, my mind was clear, and I was genuinely happy. Something I hadn't been in years. But, of course, Jessica wasn't done yet. I was at dinner with Emily, Mark, and a few others when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "I need to talk to you. Please." I didn't have to guess. I knew it was Jessica. I stared at the message for a few seconds before setting my phone down, shaking my head. Mark, ever observant, raised an eyebrow. "Something wrong?" "Not at all," I said, picking up my drink. "Just a ghost that doesn't know when to stay dead." Emily smirked. "She must really be desperate if she's reaching out again. You gonna block her?" "Tempting," I admitted. "But I'm curious. What could possibly be so urgent that she's risking humiliation to talk to me?" Mark leaned in. "You could meet up with her, just to see how miserable she is." Emily rolled her eyes. "Please, she'd just try to manipulate you again. Let her rot." I agreed with Emily, but still something in me wanted to see just how far she had fallen. So, against my better judgment, I replied, "If you have something to say it now." A few minutes later, my phone rang. I hesitated, then stepped away from the table and answered. The moment I heard her voice, I knew she was trying to force tears. "Andrew, please don't hang up." I stayed silent. Let her sweat. She sniffled. "I messed up." I exhaled slowly. "Yeah, Jessica, you did." She let out a shaky breath. "I need your help." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, this is rich. You need my help? After everything you did?" "Please," she begged. "You don't understand. He's not who I thought he was." There it is. Her perfect new fiancé had turned out to be not so perfect after all. I shook my head, biting back a grin. "Let me guess. He's controlling, cold, doesn't care about your feelings?" She gasped softly, like she couldn't believe I saw right through her. "He's worse than you could imagine." I thought I was escaping something bad, but I ran straight into a nightmare. I crossed my arms. "And what do you expect me to do about it?" "You were my husband once," she whispered. "You loved me." The audacity, the delusion. I let out a slow, mocking breath. "Jessica, I wouldn't lift a finger to help you if your life depended on it. Whatever mess you're in, that's on you." She sucked in a breath, and for the first time, I heard something real, panic. "He watches me, Andrew. He checks my phone, tracks my location. I don't know how to get away from him." I tilted my head. "Ha, sounds like karma finally found you." Her voice hardened. "You're really just going to let me suffer?" I smiled. "Jessica, you did far worse to me, and you never lost a wink of sleep over it." Silence. Then, she spat. "You're a heartless bastard." I laughed again. "Maybe, but at least I'm free. Unlike you." And with that, I hung up. When I returned to the table, Emily was watching me with an amused expression. "Let me guess. Her new Prince Charming isn't so charming." I smirked. "Not at all. Turns out, she went from cheating on a man to being with one who won't even let her breathe." Mark whistled. "Damn, that's poetic justice." Emily raised her glass. "To karma, then." We all clinked glasses, and I felt something deep inside me finally settle. This was closure.